Welcome to another episode of The Bees Show. I'm your host, Chris Weehan, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking to New Mexico United forward Greg Hurst. The Scottish striker is in his third season with New Mexico United, and we're going to be talking about his recent run of form, his great goal that he scored this past Saturday, all things New Mexico United, and what he thinks of promotion relegation within the USL, considering the fact that he has played across both the USL League One and USL Championship. Before we get into the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Help me continue to make content like this, and thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoy. Mr. Greg Hurst, welcome to The Bees Show. Thanks for coming on.
Hi, happy to be on. I've seen a few clips on Instagram and stuff, and I love that you're doing your new thing now. It's honestly, it's been so fun to watch.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you. It's different. It's not the same as scoring a goal in front of 12, 13,000 fans, but it's good. It's good.
I know you've done that a few times as well.
So let's dive right in. 3 goals in 3 games to start 2025, and then obviously coming off a big 2024 season with 13 goals. What do you credit to this good run of form that you're on?
Honestly, I think scoring goals yourself, it's just confidence. I think I touched on it after the game on Saturday as well. Gaffer last year and obviously Dennis this year have been really supportive and helping me with targets and stuff, and helping me understand how they want me to play, and you give me the freedom and the confidence to try and find those goals, whatever way they come, which obviously as an attacker is exactly what you want. You want that little bit of freedom, and thankfully that run's continued right now, so hopefully try and stretch that out for as long as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That's you touched on a couple things I wanted to address. Let's jump into the goal from Saturday. Obviously you found yourself open throughout the whole sequence. It was almost as if you were invisible. You were trying to get the ball off Sergio. He doesn't find you, and you kind of just find yourself drifting into the box. I knew as a striker I could sense in you, and I would be curious to know what was going through your head in that moment, because it felt like you were going to score before the ball had even arrived to you. So I'd be curious to know what was going through your head as that ball's coming to you.
Yeah, like you said, I had a little bit of a go at Sergio for not passing me the ball, but I'm glad he didn't now. But it was nice because obviously Brucia just came on, and we'd moved him to the 9, and I dropped into left him kind of position, so there wasn't as much emphasis on me having to be the first one in the box. So as the play was developing, I could kind of see Brucia was getting there, and obviously we know what Quelly's like when he gets in the box. Defenders get attracted to him, and for 5 or 10 seconds I was kind of looking around, and I knew nobody was really near me, and I think I heard someone behind saying get in the box, and I was I'm just going to wait a little bit longer. I think it's going to come at me, and then as soon as Quelly laid it off, it was a perfect pass, and I just knew I had to kind of wrap my hips around it and use the defenders. The defenders had shifted across to the right side a little bit more. And I knew if I hit it hard enough and hit it high that the keeper probably didn't have a chance, and thankfully it actually came off.
Yeah, and he didn't move. He knew.
No, I actually didn't know that until I watched it back that he didn't move. But no, it was great. It was a great feeling as well. Scoring in front of the home fans at that end is always big time, especially against a rival like El Paso. And the way the game was going as well. I know for most people that don't watch football for the tactics and the style of play, probably thought it was quite a boring game to watch, but I'm just glad that we ended up getting the 3 points.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of hung in there. You knew that. I'd be curious. There's so many things I want to touch upon, but as a striker, you're in the 83rd minute. Like you said, it's kind of been a bit of a dull game. What is going through your head? Well, how are you staying switched on, but 2, remaining confident in yourself that if you get one chance, you're going to put it in the back of the net?
I think sometimes when you go through a game, you don't have a chance until late. You've not had a chance to miss yet. So, your confidence is still there. And it's kind of just banking on the fact that that if you get the chance, you want to take it. And obviously I played with you last year as well and the season before, and probably not a traditional 9, don't really like not being involved in the game. And I think I looked after the game, I had 14 touches. And that for me, I'm not enjoying it if that's the way it is, but when teams are going to sit off us like that and sit in low blocks, that's kind of how it's going to have to be. I'm going to have to change up, and thankfully I had the opportunity to changed my routing in the box or where I was getting free space, and it obviously paid off.
When Brucey comes on, is that a clear indication that he's taking the 9 role and you're a bit of a free role, or you're strictly 10, or what's the messaging from Dennis when Brucey comes on?
Well, originally I thought I was coming off because I seen going on. I was like, oh no. But yeah, when he comes on, you know what Brucey's like. He's an absolute dog. Like, I'd hate to have to play against him. I love playing with him. And when he comes on, he came on. He was just like, look, I'm going to go to 9. I'm going to do all the running and like try and press and like drag defenders. Like, you're just going to go in behind and try and pick up pockets. And like he's so good for that. That's why I love playing with him, because he is very like. I think our whole team is very much team first, but he kind of epitomizes that. And if you give Brucey a role, he's going to do it. And yeah, I was just happy to see him come on and affect the game like in the positive way that he did, and it helps the rest of the boys out as well.
Yeah, that's so well said about Brucey. You know that, especially late in the game when you've already played 80 minutes, you're a bit leggy, you're tired. You know that you can't do the dirty work, and he's such a selfless player. He's going to come on and do that dirty work and draw defenders like he did on the goal. And players that don't know football don't know how to credit someone for that, but there's so much credit that goes to him and Sergio drawing defenders in that moment to free you up entirely. I want to touch upon the fact I'm big on watching teams celebrate.
Yeah.
And when I watched you guys celebrate, it was such a team moment, especially the guys on the bench, all the guys on the field, and then drawing in the crowd to it. And so that to me is a sign of a healthy locker room. But I'm just curious, how is the group? It obviously appears very healthy, but from your perspective, what is the group like this year?
You probably can ask for more. Like, I mean, just touching on like the celebration, like we've all played in teams where you score a late minute and it looks like it's going to be the winner, and maybe 3 or 4 boys run to the corner and celebrate, and it's like more just like oh well done kind of thing. Like, but you can really see like the cohesion and the team effort. Like even the new lads that have came in have bought in straight away. You obviously know what it's like in our locker room. Like, there's a big emphasis on as a team. We're all one, regardless of you're starting every game or coming off the bench or whatever. Like, you have to be a part of it, and I think it helps that we've got so much quality as well. Like, all the boys know that their chances are going to be there. And I think the gaffer's done a great job of like making that aware, so all the boys know that, if you win as a team or you win as yourself, you win as a team, and vice versa. So it's a great feeling. And the feeling when you do score a winner, it's like you feel like you've won it for the whole team as well. And it really is like together, you have like your centre backs coming up to celebrate from the halfway line. Like, that means a lot, I feel, personally, especially when it's 85th minute, everybody's tired, but everybody wants to make the effort to go and celebrate, and it's great. It's something that I think I'm really cautious of. Like, when players score, like, I want them to know that like you're happy for them and you want to be a part of it, and it seems like we've got 22 guys that want to do that, so it's great.
Yeah, and I think New Mexico United and the fans need those moments so desperately, because I think what people are starting to realize is that soccer is not, it is a family, but players are in and out every year. And so in order to build that bridge between you guys and the fans, you need big moments like that.
Yeah, for
Especially when the stadium's sold out, when it's a rivalry game, when it's at home opener. I was really happy to see that for you, but really happy to see that for the team and the way everyone celebrated. I was like, yeah, that's a sign of a healthy locker room.
No, it's a nice feeling for sure. Like, when you turn around, like once the celebrations have died down a little bit and you see how many boys were there, like, because once you're in amongst it, especially like if it's late and you score and you kind of black out a little bit sometimes, like with the emotion and the adrenaline. But once you like look back in the video and stuff and realize how many boys are there and like genuinely happy, like it's a great feeling.
Yeah, without a doubt. You guys are 6 points through 3 games. What is Dennis's message this early on in the season?
Just obviously we had preseason to work on stuff together, but it's like preseason isn't the season. Things don't happen that quickly. Like, I think you feel like preseason's a long time, but when you're trying to build a new system and bringing new players in, like, it really isn't. Like, you kind of get through those preseason games pretty quickly. So for the first, month or month and a half of the season, you're still kind of working on stuff. So to come out with 6 points from three, like obviously we're disappointed with that because we feel like, we could have more. But his main message is just, keep focusing on us and what we're doing and keep building game by game. And, when we break stuff down, when we look at everything, like we are like improving in certain aspects every game. And it's just about adding them all up together and putting in like a complete performance as much as possible.
You guys have Miami on Saturday. Obviously, I don't think people realize there's something I talked to Kaylin about how difficult travel can be in this league, how difficult travel can be out of Albuquerque. You can't fly anywhere direct other than Phoenix or Denver. So obviously, a difficult travel to Miami and a team that's struggling, 0 points on the season through 3 games. What is kind of the preparation? Is it how much time do you guys spend, or Dennis and his staff, do they spend focusing on the opponent or just more focusing on things that you guys have done well to this point?
It's a balance of both. Obviously, Dennis's message this morning was, you have to show this team respect, because if you look at their last 3 results, obviously I know they're struggling for points so far in the table, but when you actually watch the games and the instances, like they've had a red card that kind of killed them in the first game, missed a penalty last week to tie it in 2-2 against Tampa, which would have been a great result. So although the standings may lead you to believe that, they're struggling, they're actually they are a good team. And you obviously know they've got players like Blanco and stuff who have had phenomenal careers and like great players. So you can't really go into any game now in the USL and, take them lightly. So we do a bit of both. We'll focus on their strengths and what they do compared to like our identity and how we want to play. So it's like a good balance. We've been in locker rooms where you feel like sometimes you focus on one thing too much and you don't really understand your style of play, or you only focus on you and you don't really look at the opponents. But we've got a good balance, and what we're looking at and where we're trying to go with the game.
I think there's a lot more too that goes into these matches than I think maybe the fans realize, and they assume New Mexico United, they're informed, they're playing well. Miami, they're not playing well, or they're not informed, they don't have any points on the season, should be an easy win. But there's so many more factors that go into this game.
Yeah.
And like you said, when you really look into the nuts and bolts of it, they are a very good squad. They've spent money this year to build a good roster, and they're almost kind of working out the kinks of last year and struggling it. But I'm sure once they find some form, they're going to find some form, and you don't want to be the team that gets them into that good form.
For sure. Every team has to start somewhere with, but I think what people looking back at, if they just kind of take a step back, they probably won't realize like we have like a 2-day travel day. We're playing on turf now. We've not played on turf this season. It's in Miami. It's going to be a lot hotter. Like these things do play a factor in it. And like, yeah, you can say like you don't want to have excuses, and they're not excuses, but they are factors that come into the game. So you do have to change up and think about, how you're going to approach the game. But like you said, they're a good team. They've got a lot of good players. I know a couple of the lads on the team. And, you do need to be careful. Like these are the kind of games where you go in and you kind of get stung a little bit. So you need to make sure that we're treating it like every other game.
Definitely. Let's change topics a little bit. Are you still a player representative on the union or no?
I'm not anymore. I had to do that my first year in New Mexico. I actually really enjoyed it, to be fair, because it's nice to see like when you get in the calls and stuff, like what's actually going on. And I think it's important. You know what it's like when you have to vote for 2 reps and everybody's like, "Oh, I don't want to be me." I would encourage everybody to at least like stay somewhat involved with it, because it is really good to know what's going on.
It is. That's a good point. You got to do it. You didn't have to do it.
I got to do it. I had the privilege of doing it.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously you're a player that you've been a part of the players union. You've been a part of USL League One, and you've been a part of USL Championship. I'm curious to know what your opinion is of promotion relegation and what you think that move is for the league.
I love the idea of it. Obviously, growing up in it, that's what football is to me. I think that's what football is to 98% of the world. I think it gives us. I think people can't get carried away with it and start comparing this to like MLS or anything. Like we know there's still a gap there, like with finances and whatever, but it brings something different.
Yeah.
And I think. Oh, sorry, I got a call there. It brings something different, which means that there is going to be an element of I feel like people are going to be more attracted to watching that style because there's something to play for every week. You know, I remember playing League One, and you play like the MLS2 teams, or like the reserve teams at the time. And when it got to like last 4 or 5 games of the season, and teams are bottom of the league with nothing to fight for, like the games became meaningless for them. Which is sad to see for me because I feel like that's the time of the year where it's crunch time. Like you're fighting to stay up. And obviously, back home, there's a bigger emphasis on it because usually staying up or going down means getting money or losing money. Yeah. And for clubs, it's a huge deal as well. Might lose fans, might gain fans, like more money in the club, less money in the club. So I think it's going to be more difficult for teams. I think they have to commit to it. But I think if you're talking about growing the game overall as a whole in America, I think it's like the perfect idea.
Spot on. I couldn't agree more. It absolutely is going to grow the game. It's going to create a different type of fan. It's going to force fans to understand it's going to force fans to kind of understand a different element of soccer in the States. And it's a differentiator. Like you said, it's the MLS economically is so much further along than the USL, and it probably will be like that for a very long time. But it's the USL's differentiating factor.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating, and I think it's a really good move as well. It will be interesting to see how they implement it. Hopefully they're going to be very detail oriented on the way that they go about it, on how they, create standards for Division I, whatever else. But yeah, I appreciate your opinion. I would assume, is that kind of the sense of the locker room as well? Are guys and generally happy about it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it just adds another, competitive element for it. And if you ask all the players in the league, like why they play, it's because you want to compete, and you want to be better than other teams, and you want to achieve things. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they implement it, because I know that there's going to be some teams that are going to get, feel like they're hard done by if they're not in the Division One. But I think once, it's been in action for a couple seasons and teams are like almost like finding where they'll sit, then it'll start to kick off. The first couple of years might be difficult for a lot of teams to take, especially if you're not one that is in the first division and you think that you might or you should be in it. But I think once everything settles down and there's a bit of foundation set, then I think it'll really take off, and I think that can only be a good thing in my eyes.
I really hope what you're touched upon is kind of the case. Like what I'm hoping to see is that there's standards set for Division I. Like, hey, if you want to be in Division I right off the bat, build a stadium, have your own facility, your own training facility, like certain standards within that training facility as well. Mm-hmm. Because, yeah, if teams want to be a part of it, let's say a Union Omaha wants to be a part of, and I don't know them at all, you know them from your experience, but if they were to want to be a part of Division I right from the get, maybe there is a pathway that if they invested real money into their club,
yeah,
they can jump to Division I, and then
yeah,
obviously then it's up to the results to stay up there. But I think that there should be a pathway and a standard within the clubs, because that if there's a standard, like look at Louisville, for instance. They spent money on a beautiful stadium, on a beautiful training facility. That's the gold standard. Every club should be also pushing to have those same standards.
Of course. Yeah, and I know you played there as well. Like when you play there, you do feel like you're playing a professional game at a really high level. And I think the USL has grown so much, like even from League One to Championships since even I came in the States. But more and more games now feel like you really are competing at like a really good level, which it is. And I think that the more teams push to like maintain that standard, just the better it is going to be for everyone. Obviously, that's easy for me to sit here and say because I'm not the one putting my hand in the pocket to like fund this stuff. Yeah. I get it. I understand, hesitation from owners and whatever. But it's just exciting that at least they're trying to change and try and bring something new.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, last little bit. Let's jump into some fan questions. I opened it up on Instagram for some fan questions. Some of them, I gotta kind of keep on the low key. I can't bring them up. Former teammates, current teammates are asking questions that are just frankly inappropriate.
Doesn't surprise me.
No names. But let's jump through these quickly. I'll run through a couple. Why the blonde mohawk? This is from Nathaniel Parks.
So it was a funny story actually. When I was at Phoenix, one of my boys there, Aidan Quinn, we made a bet during the season that if I scored a hat trick before he scored two in one game, or like vice versa, he scored two before I scored a hat trick, the other one would dye their hair. And he done it. I think it was like 2 weeks later. He scored two against Loudoun in like the first 10 minutes, and I was like, I'm gonna have to do it. And I kind of put it off. We were kind of struggling that year, so I didn't feel like it was appropriate to kind of just come out with blonde hair. So I kind of kept it under wraps, and obviously the full next year I kind of forgot about it. And he sent me a message, and he was like, "Lad, like I've not forgot. Like don't worry. Like I still want to see that happen." So obviously done it at the start last year, and I was just going to be like one and done, but I started off the season like really well, scoring a few goals. So I thought I'll just keep it. Got to the end of the season. Obviously we had a good year as a team as well, and you know what footballers are like, pretty superstitious. So I thought I might as well just ride it and keep going.
I like that story. Absolutely. I'm with you on that. You might as well ride it. If it felt good, if it felt right.
Yeah.
Obviously that stuff doesn't help you play, but it does.
Yeah, like mentally, like, and it's funny because we did the black and yellow bash and stuff, and I didn't have the blonde hair this year at the start, and fans were coming up to me and like didn't really recognize me because they were like, I'm so used to seeing you with blonde hair, and I was like, all right, I'll have to bring it back.
Yeah, that's good. This one comes from a coworker of yours, Juan. He wants to know. He wants to know before the season starts, do you set goals for the year, like numbers, specific numbers, or how do you set goals for the year?
So I've kind of done it both ways. Like I've wrote out specific goals in terms of personal and team goals that I'd love to achieve, like for myself and with the team. And that's worked sometimes. Sometimes it hasn't. And now, like this year, not really. I just wanted to kind of continue the form from last year. I think when you put targets on, like specific targets on yourself, it kind of adds like an extra pressure that's not necessarily needed. The pressure's already there as a forward anyway to go and score goals. So I don't really see the point adding to that pressure. But like internally, like I do have an idea like where I want to reach. But it's not like I'm writing them down and going in every night and reading them and being like, I need to get to this, I need to get to that, because I feel like I said, it does give an added pressure. But there's certainly like certain things that I want to achieve, that I'll always want to achieve, but I'm not too hard on myself about that.
Yeah, I like that. I'm very similar to you. All right, we'll get two more. This is from Philip Torres. Any advice for teen ballers preparing to transition from high school to college or next steps?
I think just, really like focusing in and starting to like, I call it like lock in a little bit. Like there is such a big jump when you take that initial step, from high school, whether it's college or going into professional. And I think the biggest bit of advice that I've been given is, you never get too high and never get too low. Like there's so many peaks and like valleys in this game that if you get too high too much, then the lows feel like really bad and they're hard to get out of. And then at the same way, like if you get too low on yourself, the confidence starts to go, everything starts to go. So you find yourself climbing up the hill again. So I think try and keep an even head and even mind and focus on, improving yourself and just don't look too far ahead. That was always one thing I'd done when I was younger. I always felt like 4 or 5 years in the future, and it's just doesn't work like that. You need to take it day by day, week by week, and really focus on the short term, and then the long term plan will, unfold itself.
Yeah, I think that's the best piece of advice, because especially in today's day and age, you can so quickly go on social media and see someone that's already maybe at the destination that you had hoped for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to feel down because you're not there.
Yeah.
Man, it doesn't happen in just an Instagram video.
No, like, and everybody's, journey to where they end up being is so different. And I think like the harsh reality of football is it's very, very hard to get to the level that you watch on a Saturday in the Prem. Like it's a fraction of a percentage of these players across the world that get there. Like if you can achieve being a professional football player at any level, like you're doing really well for yourself. Like you've achieved a lot. So I think take everything with a pinch of salt and just focus on your own journey and try not to look at anyone else and where anyone else is at.
Yeah, I like that. All right, last question for you. This one comes from Alex Hernandez Perez. How does he feel about challenging your record for most New Mexico United goals?
So it's funny because I think David Weesey Carl brought that up to me at the end of last year. And I went back and looked, and bees, I didn't realize how many goals you scored. Like, I knew you scored a lot, but I was looking at it and I was like, that's tough to catch. But no, like, that's not something that really, I'm aiming to try and, I'm not going to sit here and say I want to beat it or anything, like, of course I want to score as many goals as possible. But again, that's like a target that, I'm not going to put that pressure on myself.
Yeah.
And it's nice, it's nice for you to have that record, and it's nice to have like records like that. But again, that's not really something that I'm looking at. I think last year I got close to Kavon's like goals in a season, and that got brought up towards the end of the year as well. And again, like something nice to have, but it's really not. As long as the team's doing well, like I don't care about that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you're saying about staying in the moment each and every game. You're not.
Yeah.
When you're stepping on the field, you're just thinking of how can I help the team? And if I'm going to score or get an assist and that helps the team succeed, great.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about breaking someone's record or anything. So I completely understand. Something that us in the media and us fans talk about now.
Yeah. I think that's the best way. Like you just leave it to the media and for people to talk about, and if those things happen, great. But it's really not like the focus of the main focus of the year or your career.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for sitting down, Greg. I'm enjoying your run of form. I know you're enjoying it. Wish you guys the best on the road this weekend in Miami and tons of success this season.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much, boss.
Of course. Hell yeah.